Hello everyone and welcome to the DevOps classes. Today we are going to look into what node classification is with Puppet Enterprise. If you remember yesterday, we had a session breakdown in last 15 minutes where we actually were covering node classification with Puppet Enterprise. So very first we would be covering that part, and then we would be starting with the new topic, which is probably the last topic in module 4, which is Introduction to Chef. So whatever we have done with Puppet Enterprise and open source Puppet, we will try to do the same thing with Chef. Okay, so we'll put Chef to practice. We'll learn how to write recipes, how to create cookbooks, and how to manage nodes with Chef in the coming time. Very first, let's talk of Puppet Enterprise. So for that, I'll have to spin a few machines. So please bear with me for a few minutes. I'll be taking my machines up. CentOS would take a few minutes for booting. Other machines would be up by now. So meanwhile, when this happens, do you have any queries or doubts since the yesterday's session or from any other topics that we covered so far? Henceforth, we would be requiring all that knowledge to put that into practice and integrate all the tools that we have learned. Okay, that would be coming in from module 5 onwards, which is most probably from Monday. So if you are able to cover Chef today, we would be trying to put it into practice and see how to have continuous deployments and continuous delivery set up using Jenkins. I will have to make sure that the IP addresses that these machines are using are consistent and they are the same ones that we have used the other day. And as lookup on puppet dot it's not pm dot puppet labs dot VM, does it work? The IP address of this machine, but first let this machine boot up. There's a question here from Raghu that can you show us how to integrate GitHub to Puppet Master? Well, actually, GitHub does not integrate directly with Puppet Master. The only thing that you could integrate is the modules part. So whatever we are writing in modules, you could store it into some version control system, preferably GitHub, Git, SVN, whatever you choose. But when you want to use that in your Puppet Master, only thing that you would be doing is delete everything from your modules folder and check out the repositories that you have set up on GitHub there, so that all your modules again become visible. Okay, that's the only integration that we do to store all the modules there on the version control system by keeping some history, and as well as it helps in getting the backup of Puppet Master. So there is no kind of integration happening there. You could use it at your will. Okay, so finally our machine is up. The left hand side machine which is on CentOS, it's learning VM, which is having Puppet Enterprise installed on it. Okay, it's still using the same IP address, which is good news. Does it use the same DNS? Hopefully, yes. And let's look up on learning.puppetlabs.vm. Resolves perfectly fine. So everything is okay here. I have checked node 1, node 3. Now it's time for node 2. We need to check this every time. The reason for that is the IP addresses that I'm using in my cluster is all dynamic IP addresses, and they tend to change whenever we reboot the machine, especially when time has passed in between and I've got a lot many experimentations going on. So it seems good. Let's try it on node 1 whether it is able to pick up the data from Puppet Master. The command is puppet agent -t. Let's check whether it configures itself. If it does, it says there's some problem, unable to fetch the node definition. Okay, so node definition is not present because it's trying to search for the node on that Puppet Master which is not having any node definitions. The reason why this happens is currently we have not classified the nodes in site.pp, or we have not placed the data on Puppet database. So let's do that thing. This is the same thing that we were trying to do yesterday, which is 56.99. Moving to the dashboard of Puppet. Here we were trying to classify the nodes. So there might be some times that you get these kind of errors on virtual machines. This never happens on the physical systems. So let me show you what the reason is. The reason is yesterday we have seen a few processes of Puppet Enterprise being present here. And of all these processes, a few of them would be down. Preferably it is going to be Puppet Dashboard Server Workers, which is down currently. So let me restart it. So I'll simply do service PE Puppet Server restart, and that should take care of it. Like I already said, if you grant fewer resources to your virtual machines, very specifically enterprise version Puppet Master, in that case, few of the processes may not spin up properly. due to a lack of resources. And that's the reason why these kind of errors would be coming up all across the place. So don't worry about it. Just give a fresh restart to your machine, or restart your daemons on that box, and that should take care of it. So once this Puppet server is up and running, we should be able to see a nice dashboard on the browser. So it says it has reloaded a service. Let's give it a shot. It's still not up. Uh, Service PE Puppet console services start. Now in my case, Puppet server is not able to bring up all the resources. So I'm trying with very specific process which I know which has failed. It is PE console services and Puppet dashboard workers. So I'll try to bring them up. It's sometimes good that we get across the problem so that it builds a sense of debugging here, but it's not always good because it wastes lost a lot of time. Okay, it says it's already running. Let's Okay, so that's cool. We have got our dashboard up. Let's type in the credentials, and we should be logged in into the dashboard. On the dashboard, we should be able to see nodes panel at very first. Okay, at node1.example.com, currently I've given it a run, and it says that the run failed just 4 minutes back that we have tried on node 1. The reason for that was node 1 is not classified, and we have not attached any classes to that. So let's do that. Here on the classifications tab, which is the third option in the menu, we would be creating a new group. So yesterday we were trying to do the same thing. Let's do that. I need another group in which I would be specifying my own rules and node definitions. So I'm adding a group called web server. Click on add group on the right, and it has added a new group at the bottom. Okay, now click on the group, and after that we would be adding some regular expressions to it so that the nodes get attached. So in this panel here, in the facts panel, you would be able to see all the keys that the factor would be generating, and based on few of these keys you would be classifying the nodes. So in our case, currently the nodes are having host names as node 1, node 2 and node 3. So we would be using host name as the classification factor. So in my case, the host name is a classification factor here. The operator which I am going to use is a regular expression. So you could also have is not, does not match, greater than, less than, equals to, if it's numeric kind of comparison that you want to make within the factors. You would also make the fact as, let's say, operating system version. So you'd be using operating system version there, or release, and based on that you would be having less than or greater than kind of operators. Right now I'm using matches regex. So the regular expression that I want is node and a number. Okay, so there is currently one single node which has been attached to it. So it says the matching nodes is just one. If you want to check which of the nodes is being a part of this group, in that case move to matching nodes tab, which is the next tab. Okay, let me add a rule, and there is just one node which is a part of this. That node is node 1. So let's go back and save that, right? So we have added one rule for grouping nodes inside this web server group. Which of the classes should be applied to it? Now these classes are all the modules that you have downloaded and installed on your Puppet Master. Currently we want to install Apache, so let's do one thing. We would be bringing up Apache here, or instead of that, even better, why not to use our own classes? So let me give a quick check whether the class web server that we have created yesterday is present on this machine or not. The path is etc puppet labs puppet environment production modules. Inside modules you should be having a folder named web server. All right, and in the web server would be having a class called web server itself. So the class is the initial class that we have created, always should be having the name exactly same as the module name. So if web server exists on this server, does it exist here? Let's check. Just scroll it down, and there is the web server class that we have added ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to implement this web server. By chance, if you have installed a module called Apache from example 42, Apache class would be present here and you could implement that. But I want to use the module that we have created. Okay, so we are going to use the same module for deploying the code as well. I'm going to add a class and that would implement the class on that module, on that node. Okay, so the node is node 1. New class is web server, which is being implemented on that node. If you want to pass any parameters to the class, the default parameters that we have set, you could choose the parameter name, which is param1 and param2 in our case, and pass the value if you want to. All right, it's very similar to declaring the nodes in site.pp, but this is far more interactive and useful. So I'm going to commit both the changes that I've made by clicking on the button on the right hand side bottom of this page. Commit two changes, and that would save all the changes that we have made here. All right, so that has been saved. Now, if on the node we try to run Puppet agent again, that should take care of implementing web server onto that node. Okay, let me check what is this node request here. That's a wrong request which is being generated. I need to have these nodes all lined up properly. It's example.com again. Um, it shouldn't be domain.name because we have seen the problems that domain.name would create. All the nodes should belong to the same domains. Or preferably I would also add the domain term here, domain example.com, to be very specific. So that's set up on node 2. Node 1, I'm doing the same thing here. I want to add the domain because I don't want to create the problems again. The stuff is, if you already know that this is going to create problem, fix it beforehand. Okay, so that's set. Let's go to node 1 and try to hit Puppet agent -t again. I expect uh, it to download web server class and implement that on node 1. It says it has implemented. There are no changes. Does service Apache 2 present is present here? Yeah, so that's present. On node 3, is service Apache 2 present? It says unrecognized service, so service is not present there. Let's make node 2 and node 3 also part of this cluster. So in order to do that, we would be firing a command called puppet agent -t again. It would be generating the request. Currently Puppet is not installed, so I'll be installing it. Since this is a fresh node, until now we have only worked with Puppet, node 1. Node 2 and node 3 are still fresh. So you're installing Puppet on this apt-get install Puppet. That should take care of everything. Similarly, on node 2, apt-get install Puppet. It would take a few minutes for this to set up. And again, the same cycle would follow. Very first, certificates would be generated. Then they need to be signed. After that, there would be configuration of the node, and then it would be configuring the class files that we have written onto itself. That's the point when we would be having web server installed and running on those nodes. Sometimes it becomes really tedious on Puppet's part to manage all these certificates and requests and cluster health all at once. And Chef really shines in that aspect. So I'll give you a comparison. So actually, you'd be able to compare it yourself when we see the demos on Chef. That how easy it is to manage the nodes on Chef. So on node 3, we are almost done. Okay, we are done on node 3. I'm generating the request. For generating request, you need to type puppet agent -t. Need to make sure that it talks to the master. So our master is residing at another URL. It is not puppet.example.com this time. So let's set it up. It's puppet slash puppet.conf, and the term that we are going to set is server. Server equals to learning.puppetlabs.vm. Okay, so that's set. And on node 2 as well, I would be doing the similar thing. Etc puppet puppet.conf. Server equals to learning.puppetlabs.vm. Okay, go save it. Hit the command puppet agent -t, and we are generating the certificate request. There's something wrong on node 2. Let me clean up the request. The wrong part here, I thought that we have configured those nodes, but they are not actually configured. So I'm rejecting the requests. I need to generate the requests again. Can someone tell me what's wrong? You already know what has to be implemented. So can someone tell me what's wrong in here? Why do we need to regenerate the certificate requests? Anyone? Okay, so what the problem was, node 3 and node 2, the host names on both of these machines is Ubuntu. It should have been node 2 and node 3 respectively. Okay, that's why the certificate which was generated from node 3 was actually generated by name ubuntu.example.com, and we tried to do the same thing from node 2. then it says that the certificate already exists and it would be only caching that certificate, which is not a good thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm changing my host names. On node 2 it should be node 2, right? On node 3 it should be node 3. So change it here, change it in host as. Ubuntu goes away, it is supposed to be node 2. Similarly, I'm going to change it on another machine. Exit sudo su, get back here with a new name. So it says node 2. On node 3, similar things. Now all these things are taken care by your configuration management system, which is set up before Puppet. So there would be a system that takes care of spinning the machines, preferably something like Vagrant or something if you're working on the local host, or if you're working on AWS cloud services, they would be providing their own host names to all these machines. So every machine is not going to be identical. Few of the things are always going to be different. Here we have to make sure that we handle all of these corner cases. Okay, what's wrong? I didn't set up something, I guess. It's node 3 here. It's node 3 here as well. Hostname node 3. Exit, get back. Okay, we are all set. Puppet agent minus T should generate a new certificate now for node3.example.com. Great. On node 2, it should do it for node2.example.com. Wonderful. So we have got two node requests now. Refresh the page and you should be able to see the node requests. Okay, so there are two requests, node 2 and node 3. I'm accepting these requests, both of them. All right, so we have accepted the requests. We could also do it from the console, but we are not looking into the console now. We are specifically talking of Puppet Enterprise. Enable the service and then execute Puppet agent minus T. Similarly, on node 3, we would be enabling the service first and executing Puppet agent minus T. Both of the nodes are getting their catalogs and configuring themselves. Both of them are now applying the configuration. That means they are trying to install Apache and also setting up the home page. It has completed on node 3. It's still waiting on node 2. Wonderful. So that finished on node 2 and node 3 as well. So let's check. Here on node 3, does curl localhost give us hello world? It does. On node 2, does curl localhost give us hello world? It does. Node 1, node 2 and node 3 are going to sit behind a load balancer. We have already seen how to set it up. We would again see that in the final class when we would be putting all these things together. So as of now, we have got 3 nodes running. In the node section, you would be able to see all the 3 nodes. Node 1, node 2 and node 3. Okay, all of them in healthy state. None of them is having failed uh, as the current status. Okay, if you happen to run node 2 and node 3 runs again, in that change, sorry, at that time, this change tab which is showing 2 would show 0 and unchanged tab would show 3 instead of 1. Currently there are 4 nodes including Puppet Master itself. Okay, so what's next is we would be trying to deploy a file. Currently we have set the file hard coded. It's not going to be hello world always, right? And there would be thousands of lines that a particular HTML file would contain, and it's not going to be one single HTML file. It's going to be a bulk of them, right? It would be preferably applications folder that you are trying to deploy. So how to deal with that problem? So at this point, I'm going to change the module. So let's cd to our module, cd to web server. In web server, we are going to cd to manifests, where we have a file called ini.pp that I'm going to modify. So ini.pp till now has got some data into it. So it is setting of package service file, and file would be containing content hello world. But instead of this, why don't we use some source? I don't want to provide content directly because it could be a longer content which I don't want to place inside my manifest itself. Okay, so let's do one thing. Instead of content, I'm going to change it and we're going to write source. Okay, so we are providing a template to be used as a file replacement, and it is served over Puppet protocol from the modules folder. Then the module name is web server and the file name is going to be index.html. Okay, so this is the file that I want to serve. So let's do one thing. In index.html, we'll have to create this index.html first, and for creating the index.html, we would be finding a folder. Remember this syntax: source, instead of content we have replaced that with source. The source should be having puppet colon triple slashes, not 2 slash, it is 3 slashes. Modules is a keyword, slash module name slash your file name. Okay, if it is a directory, your file name would be replaced by a directory name. So here in this folder, inside our module, we have multiple folders, but where to keep the file? For keeping the file, like I said earlier, we need to create a folder called files. So there is one new folder that has been added here, files. So I would cd to files and I would add a new file which is index.html. You could also add ERB templates. ERB templates are dynamic templates which can take in some data and can generate themselves. So here I'm adding some content. I would say again hello world, but this time we are using it from the template. Hello world from the template. Save that. So we have changed the content of the module. Let's go back to the nodes and try to hit Puppet agent -t again and check what's happening. So there's a new file content. Okay, so hello world has now been changed to hello world from template, and if you do curl localhost here on node 1, you should be able to see the new content. Similarly on node 2 and node 3. But sometimes what happens is that your catalog remains in cached location, and it has to be maybe invalidated. The cache has to be invalidated, and Here in Puppet, it happens automatically after few minutes. So you don't have to worry if it gets implemented on one of the node and doesn't get implemented on the other ones. So it worked on node 1. It did not work on node 2 for now, neither on node 3. So they'll have to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes in their current state for that to happen. Okay, nothing here to worry about. So let's jump to the next topic here, which is Chef. If you want to ask any queries or questions about the topic that we just covered, feel free to type in your chat boxes or unmute yourself, and we can have a discussion. Currently, we have seen how to deploy the things, but we haven't integrated that with Jenkins. We have not seen about continuous deployment. Neither we have seen about continuous delivery, and we have only touched the basis on continuous integration. Now it has to be hooked up with each of the different sections to create a complete build and release pipeline. But before doing that, we need to understand how Bash would work. We need to understand how to integrate the tools together using Python. Okay, so these are the prerequisites for that. We'll be covering that in the coming module. Before that, there is a new topic called Chef, which is covered in parallel with Puppet because we want to compare both of these tools, and you should be knowing both of them, uh, at least from the course perspective, so that you are free to choose your own or use the one which your organization is already using. Any queries or doubts? All right. So for Chef, what do I need? Chef is again a tool like this. Okay, I appreciate this. There is a question here from Murli that can you show me a sample application deployment in Apache server using Puppet? Yes, we will do that, but that would be done when we put all these things together. For having a sample application deployment, I need Git to be set up. Okay, so we need a version control system, we need a developer's machine, we need a continuous integration that would be hooked up onto your continuous deployment, which would be actually deploying using Puppet. All right, so just like I did it with index.html, now it is going to be on a slightly bigger scale. It would be having a few more files and a standard application there. All right, so wouldn't be a problem. We would be covering it up in the last topic, in the last module. So last module is all dedicated to this. So now we are talking about Chef. Chef is again a configuration management tool, just like Puppet. Architecture is exactly the same, but still slightly different. There would be a workstation which we were calling developer machine in case of Puppet. Then there would be Chef server, which was called Puppet master in case of Puppet. There would be multiple nodes, which were called Puppet agents, but this time we are going to call them Chef clients. Okay, so the terms are different, architecture is the same. Even the languages in which Puppet and Chef are created are same. So Puppet is created in Ruby, Chef is also created in Ruby. The major differences between these two is that Chef has got a separate utility for workstation, whereas Puppet doesn't have a separate utility for workstation. We use the same client which is running on the nodes on the workstation as well, or on the developer machine as well. When we tested all the manifests, we were running Puppet agent there. In Chef, workstation would be having their own tools. uh, node 1, node 2, and node 3 would be having its own daemon running, which is a Chef client. Again, Chef server does not execute any of the commands on the nodes. Nodes are responsible to work on themselves. Chef client would be responsible for getting the data from Chef server and implementing that on the nodes. All right, similar architecture here. The terms are going to be different. On Chef, we call the manifests as recipes. Okay, and your modules are going to be called as cookbooks. All right, the workstation side utility is called knife. So there are some differences that are there. There is no mcollective, there is no active MQ or Hira kind of stuff here. Nothing fancy, but it makes more sense to have less clutter. Then there is no parser. I mean to say no custom parser rather. Like we have in Puppet. Puppet has got its own parser, so we need to learn Puppet language. Here in case of Chef, we don't have to. People who are already having knowledge of Ruby should be able to work with Chef directly. Even if you want to learn Chef and you don't know Ruby, it's a good way to start because you already be having some problems which you are trying to find solutions to. If you learn Chef, you would be learning Ruby as well. So you don't have to go through a steep curve of learning. In case of Puppet, you'll have to learn Ruby, you'll have to learn Puppet language as well. So it's double overhead there. Why do you learn Ruby in case of Puppet? You want to learn Ruby in case of Puppet if you are already working at very, very advanced level and you want to extend Puppet for the features that Puppet does not have. In that case, you'll have to write your own functions in Ruby. Here in case of Chef, you don't need to do that. Okay, if you want to extend Ruby, if you want to extend Chef, you already are learning Ruby because you are learning Chef. That's one and the same thing. So here, let's learn a few Chef basics. And while we are doing so, we would also be touching base on few of the Ruby concepts. Okay. For you, it is going to be, if you don't know Ruby already, it's going to be just like learning another chef language. So what we need here, we need to first create a workstation. We will not be talking of chef server or nodes at all. Very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to work on the workstation, creating our own recipes and cookbooks. Okay. Let's do it one thing at a time. Chef installs only on 64-bit. It does not install on 32-bit systems. So I don't need these machines for now. I would be shutting them down. I also don't need Puppet. So again, Puppet shut down. Okay, so I need a 64-bit machine. So I would be getting one. Let's add a machine from here. I already have got 64-bit system running. I just need to select that. There it is. Let's call it workstation. So the one that I'm using right now, it's Ubuntu 14.04 x64, which is 64-bit version of Ubuntu. It's very similar to the template that we have already created, which is Ubuntu 14.04, and we were cloning all the machines from that. Now I'm using another template. Instead of Ubuntu 14.04, I'm using 14.04 x64 template that I have already created. It hosts the same operating system, Ubuntu 14.04 LTS server version, but instead of 32-bit, it is 64-bit. Now that's the basic requirement of Chef, that you would be able to install Chef servers and workstations only on 64-bit machines. Your node could be 32-bit as well. So it doesn't matter how your node is or which operating system it is running on. Chef has got native support for Windows systems as well. So don't have to worry about it. One problem here with Chef is that you cannot have Chef server running on Windows. Okay, you could have Puppet running on Windows. You cannot have Chef running on Windows. I mean to say Chef servers, not the Chef agents, the Chef clients. 64-bit machines actually take more amount of time for cloning themselves, so let's spend a few minutes here. And by the time that happens, prepare yourself to download Chef Development Kit. Okay, so for Chef Development Kit, which is required for running the systems on workstation, you'll have to download it from Chef's website. Okay, so let me tell you where to find that. Get to the website called, is there a browser open? Yeah, on your browser you could type downloads chef.io/chefdk, and here choose the version of machine on which you want to set up your development kit. So I'm choosing Debian because I'm using Ubuntu, or choose Ubuntu as well, anything would work. Okay, it would ask you for downloading it. It would be a Debian package. It is DEB here. Okay, so download this Debian package, and we would be installing Chef Development Kit from that package. So what I did earlier today, I have downloaded this package using this download button. As soon as you click on it, it would be starting to download. Okay, so I downloaded that in my folder just to save some time. Let me show you where. So here it is. This is how it looks. It is Chef DK 0.901 AMD64.deb. So it is a 64-bit version that is being downloaded. It's 141 MBs in size. Once you have downloaded that, you should be installing it. And for installing, you'll have to install it from the Debian package. Okay, so let's see how to do that. Is the machine created? I'm waiting on the machine. Okay, so machine is created. Let's start it. Since we have downloaded the package, but it is on the host machine, we need to share it with this VirtualBox. And we have already seen in the initial classes how to share a folder. Similarly, I've shared a folder here. Okay, and that shared folder, I have got that Debian package. So I would be using that to install Workstation here. The shared folders are going to be inside /media. It is SFE drive, which is here. So in SFE drive, my Debian file's name is chefdk. So I would be installing it from this drive directly. To install Workstation or any of the Debian packages on Ubuntu systems, there is a command called dpkg that you would be running as the root. -I for install, and install it using the Debian package, which is kept at SFE drive chefdk and your Debian package name. Hit enter. It should install Chef Development Kit for yourself. Machine here, Workstation, is a unique machine that is connected to your internal network as well as internet. Okay, so it should be connected to both of the places. Chef server may be hosted locally or maybe a part of your internet, so you could keep your Chef server anywhere. Either it could be hosted somewhere else in the remote location, or it could be hosted in your local infrastructure as well. It doesn't matter where the chef server is. But important part is that your workstation should be able to access the nodes on which you want to install chef clients, because the next step that we are going to look at is going to bootstrap the nodes. But before that, we'll see how to write the recipes and cookbooks. Okay, so your chef development kit is now installed. Next thing we need is an editor. So if you are aware of the editor that we have been using so far, it's Vim. If Vim is not installed, you could install it by typing apt-get install vim. Okay, so here let's start working with Chef. For that, I need to create a working repository first, working directory where I would be placing all my Chef files. So that's the home directory currently. It's /root where I'm working. I'm going to create a directory mkdir chef hyphen repo. Okay, so it is chef repo chef hyphen repo. Do not worry about the chef.pem and chef validator.pem files. They are created by default by the installer that we have just installed. Chef repo is now empty since I've just created the file, the folder. Now here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to write a small recipe or a manifest in Ruby syntax. Vim example.rb. So Chef does not have its own extensions. It uses everything from Ruby. And I'm going to type in something. The resource type is file. The resource name that I want to create is just create any file. I want to create motd. The code block starts with do, ends with end keyword. So there is no curly brace to mark starting of the block and ending of the block. Here you would be using do for starting it and for ending it. And the content of the file should be hello world. There are other attributes as well, okay, like owner, group, mode, everything is present here in Chef as well. Syntax is slightly different. Okay, there are no arrows, no commas. First, let's do this, and then we would be looking at some more complex examples. So that's the very simplest recipe that we have written. I just need to create a file, and the content inside that file should be hello world. Okay, so let's do it. Save the file, and then fire the command chef apply hello, not hello, it's example, right? Example.rb. So that's one single command. It's not two different words. In Puppet, those are two different words, Puppet space apply. Here it is chef hyphen apply. It's one single word, chef apply, and space your manifest, sorry, not manifest, your recipe name. If you try to build it, compile it, and then execute it. Okay, so if you see here, the notices that you are getting or the logs that are being generated are more informative than in case of Puppet. It says it has created a file, added a content called hello world to it, and we are trying to change the content now. What does hello world, what does motd contain? It contains hello world, right? Now if I change it, and instead of hello world I say hello user, it should be able to write that. Chef apply example.rb should be changing the file content. Now there is no parser that takes care of syntax checking here. It is a default Ruby parser. So if you do any mistakes, Ruby should be able to catch you. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the syntax. Whereas in case of Puppet, many times the parser shows that the syntax is okay, but still it gives an error when you try to execute that manifest. Let's cat MOTD now. The content should have been changed. It is hello user. Okay, so let's do one more thing. Now instead of changing the recipe, I'm going to change the file contents. My file is MOTD, so I'm changing the content directly inside the file. I say just hello, save it, and apply example.rb again. Okay, so here what is the content of MOTD? It's hello user again. It's not just hello. So here Chef also performs the operations according to idempotency policy. If I run chef apply example.rb again, it will not change the file contents. It would say that the file already is in a state where it should be. So it will not change any of the contents of any of the resources that you are defining if the resource is already in a state in which it should be. Alright, so we have just created a very small recipe, and there are a few things for you to remember. Very first thing, that we have declared a resource type. The resource type here is file. And resource, like in case of Puppet, in Chef as well, would be representing a piece of infrastructure or a smallest unit of which you could specify a particular state. Okay, so it could be a package, a service, a file, anything. And a recipe here, or a manifest in Puppet, it actually holds all the configuration details for installing or managing software components, for managing the files, deploying the applications, or execute some other recipes as well. And in the file definition that we have written now, we show it to you. Uh, we have not mentioned multiple attributes. We have just mentioned one single attribute. So what happens when you don't specify the attributes? All the default values would be picked up. Okay, so you could go through the definition, sorry, documentation of these resources and figure out the other ones. So by default, there is an attribute called action here. In every block, in every resource block that you specify, there would be a term called action. Just in case of Puppet, where everywhere you see a term called ensure. Okay, and ensure would be taking different values based on what particular resource is being called. So ensure could be file in case of file, ensure could be running in case of service, ensure could be present in case of package, and so on. So here in case of file, action is create, and that is there by default. Okay, that's another one called delete, which you would use to delete that file if you want to. All right, so next thing what we are going to look into, to do the similar thing, but this time we are going to install package and services like we did with Puppet. So let's do it. I want to have package installed, so I would be creating a package, right? Package I want to install is Apache 2, then do and done, right? You could also specify the action, but now I'm not specifying anything. If I don't specify, the default action is going to be install. Now this is the syntax. There are no arrows. If you want to have multiple actions present, you should be specifying multiple colons and the keywords there. So here the default action is install, colon install. If you don't want to specify the action, still it's good, because since that is the default one, you don't need to worry about declaring that anyways. So you don't even have to declare the body of that particular resource definition. So let's try to apply this, save it, apply that again. Chef apply example.rb should get your Apache web server running. It's trying to install Apache. It says unable to fetch some archives. There is probably some problem here. App-get update or something is not working. So let's fix it. Trying to hit app-get update. Does it work? Yeah, so that's working. That's one of the problems which we have fixed. Another one could be the port is being blocked. So we'll have to take care of that as well. Now this is a misconfiguration with the hardware, not hardware, the operating system itself, because I'm using the older machines. So I need to take care of app-get update and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so app-get update worked. I need to check whether Nginx is running on port number 80. That would also cause problems. Let's start TLPN, try to grep a port number 80. Is anything blocking it? Yeah, it's being blocked. So let me fix it for this. Chef server CTL stop. Now this is not going to occur in your case. Definitely it's not going to occur in your case because I've already experimented on this machine. There are a few things that require cleaning up. Okay, let's try to hit chef apply example.rb again. That should take care of installing Apache. So the first log that you see is file motd. It says that action create. It's already up to date, so nothing is modified. The second action is for installing Apache 2 using apt package. So it has already decided that it would be using apt-get to install Apache 2, and the action was installed. The version 2.4.7 is installed now on this operating system. So that's good. Let's check the service, and it's installed. Curl localhost should give you some file which we don't want. We definitely want to change it. So the next thing that we are going to do is to set up the service so that if I restart this machine, I should still have Apache running. Okay, so let's change our example.rb file. Similar things that we have done with Puppet, now with Chef. Service, resource type, resource name, Apache 2. Do for starting the code block, done for ending, end for ending it. Now, we want to make sure that it supports the service. Few of the daemons does not have any service files created. Okay, so supports would be creating service files for them. So I would say support status true. It already supports in case of Apache, but just in case if you are not using Apache package and using something else, you would be writing this line. And the default action is to keep it running, but now we want it to be enabled and we also want it to be started. So this is how you place multiple actions at one single time. Colon enable, colon start. Enable means to enable it during the system restart, during the boot time. And start means to check the current status of the service and keep it always running. Okay, that's what it means. Let's see if it works. Next time we are going to stop the service and try it again. All right. What is the status of service? It says service Apache 2 action start. It's already up to date. So service must be running already. Service Apache 2 status, it's running. Okay, so let's stop it. Service Apache 2 stop. So it's stopped now. If you try to implement chef apply example.rb, it should start the service. Okay, so it says start service. Service Apache 2 has been done. So check service Apache 2 status again. It should be in the running state. Cool. So that's working. So the next step, the third thing that we have done is to set up the home page. So let's set up the home page. I don't need this file tab here. So I'm removing the first few lines where we have tried to create a file. But instead of that, we will be placing another one called file. And the path would be var www-html-index.html. Okay. And here we are going to set up the home page. Now the default for homepage is to create a file to set up the user and the group to the default one, which is root. Okay, so we are not going to change it until required. For now, we are just interested in setting up the content. So I'm setting up the content with a new line at the end. Chef apply example.rb should be creating that file for us. Okay, so currently it has removed all the lines. The log is very easy to read, and the log would be showing the contents exactly same as in any diff log. If you have seen a diff log from Subversion or Git, it's more or less the same to that. Curl localhost should be giving us not the longer version of HTML, but just hello world. There it goes. Okay, so that's the simplest thing that we could be doing here. The next step is to bundle it up. Okay, so we are going to bundle up this recipe and trying to make it more manageable so that we could add more tags or attributes to it. At the same time, instead of placing the content here in the recipe itself, we would be combining it into a nice cookbook or a module. Okay, so let's do that. I don't need motd file. I've done with that. We need example.rb, which we are using. So let's do one thing. We are going to create a cookbook. Okay, so for creating a cookbook, I need a new directory to be created. So I would be creating a directory mkdir cookbooks cd to cookbooks. Okay, and just like in case of Puppet, we generated the cookbook boilerplate. Here also we are going to do the same. The command is chef generate cookbook and the cookbook name, which is Learn Chef Apache 2 in our case. You could give the cookbook any name you want. So it has just created the cookbook. Now let's see. Oops, sorry. I need a tree command to show you the structure of the directory. So I'm installing tree here. Okay, so tree is installed. Does it work? Yeah. So that is the folder structure which has been created. Manifest have been replaced by recipes. Spec and test are similar folders, nothing different in that. But there's a specific difference. If you see that init.pp has taken place of, has been replaced by default.rb file. So in case of Chef, you will not find init to be the starting file. Instead of that, you'll be finding default as the starting file. Okay. So what we are going to do now is the homepage that we created, that was hard-coded one, right? So we are going to shift the content inside a template and trying to use it. So for that, we will have to create a template, and we will be creating a template again by the command itself. We will not be creating the file manually because we don't know that out of which of these folders we should be placing the contents in, right? So let's do it. Chef generate. This time do not generate a cookbook, but we are generating a template inside a cookbook called learn Chef Apache 2, and the file that we want to generate is index.html. Hit enter and it would automatically create a file with ERB extension to it inside the templates folder. So until now there is no templates folder which exists. There is just a test folder which starts with T. If I hit tree command again, you should be able to see another another folder created just above the test folder, which is called templates. In case of Puppet, we had created a files folder all by ourselves. Okay, so in templates folder there would be a default folder created. Instead of that, our file has been placed with a name index.html.erb. So this is a ERB template. That means it is a dynamic template which accepts some values if you are willing to pass some values there, and it should modify the content itself. So what I'm going to do is we are going to place some content inside of that ERB template. But for now, we are not using the dynamic part of it. We are just using it statically. Later on, we would be making it dynamic. So let's open up that. It's inside our cookbook name, then templates, and then default, and then index.html.erb. This file is empty. I'm going to place some content inside of it. Or rather, I would say hello world from template, more declarative. You would place any HTML content here. Okay. Now the recipe that we have written earlier, let me go one step back and open up that file for you. It's example.rb, and in that file we have placed a resource type file which takes some attribute as content, and we don't want the content to be used, we want the template to be used now. So here in Puppet we have seen that the content is replaced by another attribute called source, right? In case of Chef, it's a bit different. Let's go to our cookbook and open up the recipe called default.rb and write the things there. So I'll be replacing file with template. Very first thing that we did was to install a package Apache 2. Then what we did was to have service Apache 2 running. Action was set to enable and start. Okay, and then we created a file. Now instead of a file, if you want to use the content from the template, you'll have to specify the template resource. That's the new resource here, var www-html-index.html, and this template should be picked up from the source, which is at index.html.erb. Okay, it would be automatically searched in the templates folder. So your file here would be having the content that you have placed in that particular template. How to implement that? Remember that we were not able to execute the modules directly because the auto-loading feature was not present on the agent side. Here in Chef, we could execute the cookbooks. So for executing the cookbook, first save this file, and then I'm going to fire the command. Remember that you should be at Chef repo location outside the cookbooks folder. Okay, so for that, the command is chef client local mode. We are running it locally, and the classification of nodes that we did with Puppet, here we don't need to classify that. We need to specify which recipe from which cookbook to execute. And this specification is called a run list. Run list. Okay. So I'm specifying a run list. I don't need to classify the node. RUNLIST run list. We want a recipe. Okay. We want recipe from the default recipe from the cookbook called Learn Chef Apache 2. Okay, so that's how we specify. The run lists would be cached. So it has changed the content hello world to hello world from template. Okay, now if you do curl localhost, you should be getting the updated answer. So currently what we did, we simply have dropped all our recipes into a nice manageable form, changed the file hard-coded content to a templates source, okay, and have implemented that locally. So there's a difference between Chef Apply and Chef Client, right? Chef Client works at the node level where it would be able to run the modules, whereas Chef Apply would be applying single recipes, one single file. All right. Run lists would let you specify which recipes to run. Okay, and also it is able to specify the order in which to run them. So currently we just have one single recipe, so we didn't mention multiple ones, but we could soon mention multiple recipes. Okay, so run list could be having multiple recipes mentioned there, or from multiple cookbooks as well. So you don't need to classify the nodes, but you need to specify which node would be having which recipe executed. So everyone clear until now? The next step that we are going to look into is how to manage a node with Chef. So what we need here is a workstation on which we have Chef Development Kit installed. Again, we need an editor. So if you're not having Vim, get in Vim installed. And the third thing, we need Chef server. So Chef server is a machine that would be hosting all your recipes and cookbooks. Currently, your recipes and cookbooks are stored locally on the workstation. Remember that we are not working on the node. We are still working locally on the developer machine called as workstation, which should have Chef DK installed on it. If you're running or working on node, in that case, you will not be able to fire any of these commands. Okay, because on the nodes, you'd be having just one single utility called Chef client. So here what we are going to do is, instead of setting up the server all by ourselves, which is rather very easy, if you want to set up the server yourselves, you'll have to install it from the Debian package again. And the Debian package that you could download, let me bring up the, okay, download Chef server. So your Chef server is also available in multiple flavors, but you don't see something like Windows here. Okay, Ubuntu Linux is supported. You could click on it, and they would be providing you with a Debian package of which you could download. It is very specific to the operating system version, so you cannot have 12.04 running on 14.04. So make sure that 14.04 is downloaded from here. So what I did earlier was I downloaded the package already, and here the package looks like this: Chef Server Core, the version of it, version 64, AMD 64, which is 64-bit. If you want to install it, you'd be following the same command, dpkg-i, and this particular package. It would install Chef Server locally. But instead of setting up the Chef server locally, what I'll do is I would be using the hosted version of it, which is far more easier and free to use for a specific amount of nodes, of course. Okay, so for hosted Chef, the website that Chef people have provided is manage.chef.io, where you need to create your own account. So it is a free trial. You could create your account for a few number of nodes and then try to sign in. If you remember that we did a lot of hustle in setting up the certificates. Okay, a lot of problems were also fixed during that span. But here with Chef, we don't need to sign any of the certificates. So it doesn't mean that it is unsecure. Um, what you'd be doing first is you'd be creating an organization from here. Organization is a group or a cluster name that you'd be creating. Okay, so like that, I have jumped to manage organizations. You could create the organization from clicking on the create button here at the left. Okay, so click on it. It would be asking you for the organization name. Let me specify some. I would give it as DevOps sessions. Okay, and short name, let's give it DS. Like that's already in use, so I'll give it as DevOps S. So that's available. Create organization. The organization is a unique keyword that marks your group on the Chef server. Okay, so I've created one. There were a few more which were already created. So what you do next is you select the organization. Let me check here. The organization should show up. Let me refresh. Okay, so we are currently using DevOps session as an organization. Okay, so for now, what we are going to do next is on the right hand side, you should be able to see a wheel-like structure, generally like settings. Click on it. There is an option to download starter kit. So starter kit is a zip package that would be holding all your files which are related to the certificates. So you don't need to sign any of the certificates yourself. Okay, so you wouldn't be doing that. Rather, you'd be downloading a starter kit. It would be providing you the option of downloading it. So click on download starter kit. All the steps are exactly same as in the downloaded version of Chef. So if you download and install, you'd be having a nice console like this, which would be serving all these steps for you. Proceed and download the Chef starter.zip file. So what I'm going to do next is to put it in the shared folder. The name is same in every case. It is chef-starter.zip. So there is this folder that I have moved here. It's called chef starter, the last one, the currently downloaded zip file. The next thing that you're going to do is to extract the chef starter .zip package to your working directory. All right, so let's do it. Get back to your machine, cd to your root, and then fire the command unzip. Is unzip installed? Okay, it says it is not currently installed, so I need that installed. Apt-get install unzip, and then we are going to unzip that particular starter kit. Starter kit allows the workstation to push all the cookbooks there. Okay, so let's do that. Just like Forge in Puppet, we have got Supermarket here in Chef, which hosts all the public recipes and cookbooks. First things first, let's unzip it from media, SFE drive. It is chef starter.zip. Okay, so I'm unzipping it in the current location. I'm at my root location, which is /root. Let's jump to chef repo. Now you should be having some more folders in your chef repo folder. A few of them are nodes, then there is readme.md, and there is also a file called roles. Okay, so these files, in the nodes you'll be having all the nodes list, in the roles you'll be having all the usernames that you are creating, and your also your run list would be saved there. Now the chef repo should be having one more file which is supposed to be missing in this case. It should already be present. Let me check. It's .chef file. Let me unzip it again. Maybe there's some problem. So let's rmrf everything in here. It's clean. .chef file is important because that holds the credentials of where your uh, server is kept. Let's check. Cd to chef repo, and there should be a hidden file called .chef. Yeah, it's there. Sorry. There is a .chef file which is required. Now for getting the cookbooks, the cookbook that we have created is good so far, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to download the cookbook from the supermarket. Okay, so the supermarket is an online store where all the cookbooks are kept. For downloading it, let's use the knife command now. Let's be inside chef repo, and now the command knife cookbook site. It's just like typing the command puppet module install. So here we are trying to install the cookbook from chef's public repository. It is knife space cookbook space site download, and which ones you want to download. We are going to download the one which is Learn Chef Apache 2. So Learn Chef Apache 2 is also the cookbook which is present on chef's site. Okay, and that was the reason why I used the cookbook with a similar name. Hit enter. It should be connecting to the internet, downloading that cookbook for us. If we download the cookbooks in tar package, it will not install it directly in the folder. Just like in case of Puppet, it installed it. Now in case of Chef, you will have to untar it. So there should be a tarball present at this location. Now this tarball, we would be untarring the tarball. The command is tar -zxvf learn chef apache 2 the tarball and create it in the folder called cookbooks. Okay, so Learn Chef Apache 2 has been created there, and we don't need the tarball anymore, so I'm removing the tarball. CD to cookbooks, you should be able to see the folder there with the name Learn Chef Apache 2 already present. Okay, now in order to implement this cookbook onto the nodes, you will have to upload the cookbook to the Chef server. So for that, let's do one thing. The command is knife cookbook upload. Now this is not download command, this is upload command. Upload to the server using the name Learn Chef Apache 2. And this is the last thing that we are going to learn today. So far what we have done is we have written recipe, we have bundled it up into a cookbook. We have learned how to download the cookbooks from the public store called Chef Supermarket. So Chef Supermarket is actually at the URL called supermarket.chef.io. Let me show it to you. Okay, let's go to the browser. It's supermarket.chef.io where it's going to be. Just like in case of Puppet, it's forge.puppetlabs.com. Okay, learn Chef Apache 2. So there's the cookbook here. Okay, you click on it. It will be giving you the complete details on what the cookbook is and what it has got in store for you. All right, back to the basics. So what we have done now is we have downloaded the cookbook from Supermarket, and at the same time we have uploaded that cookbook onto our Chef server. So here in the administrations, let me move to the DevOps as. So in the policy section, we should be able to see all our cookbooks that we have uploaded just now. Okay, so we have uploaded a cookbook called Learn Chef Apache 2 here on the server. Now the next coming steps would be to implement this. Let's go to Sketch first. All right. So the next thing that we are going to learn is to managing nodes. So bootstrap a chef node and then implement the cookbook. Okay. So this part comes under managing the nodes with chef. So this is what we are going to learn next. Okay, and that is going to be the last part in module 4. Module 5 would bring you some more things to learn. Okay, but that later. So this is the last class of this week. We'll be meeting again on Monday with a new topic, managing the nodes with chef. So till then, if you have any queries or doubts uh, about whatever we have covered so far, feel free to ask it. Make sure that you practice all the stuff that has been covered, because it is going to be very useful in module 5. um, when we learn the bash scripts and the Python, we'll be using that to integrate all the stuff that we have learned. All right, so that's all from me, from my side for today. Okay, any queries or doubts are welcome. I'm still here for another good 5 to 10 minutes. You could shoot your questions.